What are the choices in Hong Kong? For China, it is arguably compromise or clamp down. Hitherto, the authorities have avoided the clampdown option, but the sense they may tilt that way is never far off. For the pro-democracy protesters, well, they see no choice. This is their own do-or-die moment. For them, the future of their state hinges on resisting the slow creep of mainland Chinese authoritarianism. What is playing out in Hong Kong right now is the clash of values and the clash of power between those two sides. And the airport was the front line in that conflict today. Well, they're chanting 5 demands, nothing less. And those demands are complete withdrawal of the extradition bill, the withdrawal of the riot, characterisation of the protests in June, the unconditional release of all arrested protesters, an independent commission of inquiry into police behaviour, and universal suffrage. Well, protesters more or less managed to get all flights cancelled at the airport today. But today was in large part a reaction to the police tactics yesterday when they charged into a Hong Kong subway station and beat protesters with batons as they tried to flee. And last night, demonstrators staged a second night of hit-and-run rallies, splitting into small groups that scattered across the city to set up temporary roadblocks and face off against riot police. Well, there are competing narratives around these protests, obviously. Kerry Allen reports on and monitors Chinese media for BBC outlets and is with me in the studio. Kerry, thanks for joining us. And let's just start with one clip. We'll play a little bit of this, and I think this is from let's listen to it, and then you can talk us through what's being said and why it's important.
本台今天刊播央视快评，依法严惩恐怖暴行，坚决恢复香港秩序。
China's equivalent of Newsnight. It's the evening show that it's on every day. It's half an hour long. Everybody sits down and watch. And it normally has the key government messages that the government wants to get across. It also normally reserves special events for this time. You know, if there's any big announcements, normally they'll have this on the show.
Right.
And we've seen some of the strong language that we've heard in the recent weeks related to the Hong Kong demonstrations. So, you know, the fact that these are, the perception that these are illegal assemblies and the demonstrators are violent. But we're seeing some very, very strong language today. This phrase that this has shades of terrorism and is tantamount to lynching. It's reached the point of madness. So a very, very strong message coming out from Beijing that millions, hundreds of millions, are sat down watching.
And so that's in Hong Kong itself, that programme.
It's in mainland China.
That was mainland China, right?
But it's also
shown in Hong Kong. And getting the narrative in mainland China is absolutely central, isn't it? And on Weibo, which is a major social media platform, there are lots of hashtags in support of the Hong Kong police, aren't there?
There are, yes. Well, this is because for a long time, people have had the perception that the protesters are violent. They've been called hooligans. Now they're called terrorists almost.
But who's setting up these hashtags? Do we think those are, if you like, agents of the Chinese authorities who are creating hashtags saying, I support the Hong Kong police? Or do we think these are ordinary Chinese citizens?
Oh, they absolutely. Well, they could be both because what China has, it's known as the 50-cent party. So these are people who are paid 50 cents, very small amount of money, and they post messages in line with what the government wants. So a lot of these people might be poor students. They think, I can make a bit of money, and they just post messages en masse. They create accounts and they post messages in line with the government's message. But at the same time, because the government has so tightly controlled the dialogue on Hong Kong, there has been this fear built up for people. They've been seeing hand-picked footage showing protesters fighting with the police, and very much of the side that the protesters are making, you know, they're causing injuries to police officers. So I mean, this TV program that went out today, it said that some people had thrown petrol bombs at police officers. So people will get the impression that the police officers are completely pushed to the limit, and that these people are just more and more violent, and that they're very scared, and they're thinking, how come this area is out of control now?
Very quickly, Versace caught up in the controversy, apologising to the Chinese authorities. Just tell us, talk us through this.
Well, it's not just Versace. So Versace yesterday, somebody, it might have been a social media user, it might have been government orchestrated, noticed that there was a Versace T-shirt that had, it literally like, you know, like you get T-shirts for concerts. So they have city on one side, country on one side. So it might be London, UK, Madrid, Spain, a list of different cities and countries, but just Hong Kong, not Hong Kong, China. And also...
seemingly taking Hong Kong as in some way separate to China by doing that, obviously.
Yeah, so they've then now issued an apology. People are saying they're going to boycott Versace. And in the last 24 hours, people have noticed the same for Coach and Givenchy, that they've also been selling T-shirts that just say Hong Kong. They don't say Hong Kong, China. So people are saying if they could afford these brands, they will boycott them. But they're saying that these companies should get out of China. They should exit the Chinese market. If they don't support national sovereignty, they shouldn't be in China.
Hence Versace apologising. Kerry Allen, thank you very much indeed.